This is the thinnest product that Apple has ever created, the iPad Pro with M4. A few questions I have are, is it really that different from last year's model? Is it that new or exciting? Is it really worth the money? But first, let's rewind and get to the unboxing. I got the base 13-inch model that comes in silver, coming with 256 gigabytes. So I chose this option because Apple actually didn't make it clear that if you upgrade to the 1 terabyte or higher of storage, there's a nanotextured display that has a matte and anti-glare kind of finish, and also it doubles the RAM from 8 to 16 gigs, something Apple didn't explain very well in the keynote, and you can only really find out by digging through the specs page. Also, fun fact, the most expensive model that you can get is the 13-inch 2 terabyte with nanotextured glass and cellular. That'll run you $2,599 plus tax. That's also not even including the Apple Pencil Pro or the Magic Keyboard, both of which I have and we'll get to later. So in the box, we're getting a brand new iPad Pro, and holy, this thing is crazy thin. But it's also a lot lighter, which is a huge improvement if you've used any of the past iPad Pros. We're also getting a USB-C cable that's 1 meter, and we're getting only a 20-watt USB-C power adapter. No stickers this time as Apple is going more sustainable, and no polishing cloth, because that's only available on the nano-textured option. Looking at the iPad for the first time, again, this is the silver option. You can see just how crazy thin this thing is, especially when I compare it to last year's model. On the back, there's a camera bump, which is also a lot smaller than last time. I can't wait to turn this thing on and set it up. So Apple claims this iPad is thinner than anything else they've ever made. You can really tell when you look at the buttons or the side compared to last year, or even the USB-C port at the bottom. It's just slightly larger than those and really feels incredible to hold, and I cannot explain that through a video. It's clear that this is the first thing that Apple wanted to promote as a headline feature. As you scroll through the website, the headline is thin possible, showing how thin it is. Okay, and then you scroll, and again, the thinnest Apple product ever. Keep scrolling, now there's a gallery showing the iPad on an angle. Scroll again, thrill sleeker, and also bolding the thinnest product Apple has ever created. Okay, we get it. Not only is it thinner, but it's also way lighter, going from 1.5 to 1.28 pounds. I think that this is what they actually should have highlighted on the website. This is the largest difference to me. If you've used any of the past iPad Pros, especially the 13-inch model, it was always this great screen, but then the weight of it for long periods of time was taxing and led to me using my iPad way less over time, opting for options that were easier to sit on my lap like a laptop, or a phone that I could just pick up. I'm really happy to see that this is much thinner and lighter, and I think it'll make a lot of people way happier. A huge surprise considering the Air is now heavier than the Pro. Apple kept saying the iPad was 13 inches in the keynote, and I originally thought that they were just rounding up instead of saying 12.9 inches, but it is technically 0.1% bigger. Not something you'll notice really, but it does mean that the whole iPad is 0.1% wider and taller, because the bezels aren't actually smaller to accommodate that. This also means the previous cases and keyboards are completely useless with this thing. The camera also moved to the side, or the top, depending on how you look at this thing, where it should be. So you can now take calls on landscape. The camera also has center stage to follow you around wherever you go, which is a great addition. That move also had some negative effects, which we'll get to a little later in the video. Another silent update here is that the back camera got a silent downgrade. So now we have the same 12 megapixel wide camera with 4K video and ProRes, but we're missing that ultra wide camera. Now, maybe they just realized that most people aren't taking their iPad Pro around to take videos and photos that often. And if that's the cost to make this thing more enjoyable to use, making it thinner and lighter, I'm cool with that. One of the largest announcements was the introduction of Apple's new M4 chip, starting on the iPad and likely coming to the Mac lineup later this year, and it really didn't seem like that big of an announcement. Sure, it's 1.5 times faster than the previous iPad Pros, but was speed ever really the problem? I think this announcement will become way more meaningful though, with whatever AI Apple has planned to announce later in June, but more on that later. Some other enhancements that M4 brings now include ray tracing for more realistic colors in gaming, which you can see here. We're also getting dynamic caching to boost graphic performance of any apps and games depending on which ones support it over time. Another thing here is that AI is listed for the first time on Apple's website. They're hinting at how the M4 chip will introduce AI to the Apple ecosystem. They said on the website, lets you do things like isolate a subject from its background in 4K video with just a tap in Final Cut Pro, or automatically create music notation in real time. I think a lot of people automatically think about, ChatGPT or chatbots when they think about AI, but I think this is where Apple is focused on making improvements behind the scenes with the future AI updates. Ultimately, I think as more apps come out supporting performance of M4, we're going to see huge improvements and reasons to upgrade, but that's saved for a longer term review. One of the exciting accessories coming to the iPad Pro is the new Apple Pencil Pro. A cool touch is different design boxes, which is really awesome to see here. Here's all of them that we've seen. Unboxing it here, it's really not that much different than previous generations. It looks the same as the last one, but of course with the Apple Pencil Pro branding on it. The newest feature is the squeeze feature. This is going to bring up quick actions like changing the brush size or undoing something, which I think makes this better and a lot more practical of a device. It also now lets you barrel roll, so as you rotate, you can see the iPad is aware, making it even more precise. There's now haptic feedback, which you feel when you squeeze or double tap, making it way nicer than before and more intuitive. The accessory I'm most excited about is the new Magic Keyboard. This is what I used most often on my last iPad Pro. Unboxing it here, you can see that on the outside, it's pretty much the same design, except that this one is actually thinner, just like the iPad. It has a slightly changed hinge to make it even more sleek. The pass-through connector is now capable of fast charging, which is really handy if you never want to detach this thing from the case, or you just want to use your USB-C on your iPad for something else while it's charging through the keyboard. On the inside, you're now getting this aluminum palm rest that feels a lot more like a Mac and a lot more polished. The trackpad is now a larger glass trackpad, also includes haptic feedback, again making it feel that much closer to a Mac. The keyboard, although the same mechanism, now has a new function row, finally with an escape button and all these helpful functions, again, that mirror a current Mac keyboard. You see where I'm going with this. Up next, I've got the Smart Folio. This magnetically attaches to your iPad Pro and uses magnets to automatically put your iPad to sleep or wake it up when you open it. The folding cover lets you prop your iPad up for viewing content or prop it down for better angled typing. I think the blue looks great with the silver iPad, but let me know what you think in the comments. So overall, this is an exciting new iPad, right? But I feel like this is the first time that Apple silently got rid of some features and also didn't bring some over that we were expecting, like the lack of MagSafe on iPad, which is super confusing, by the way, because we do have functional magnets in the back, as you just saw. We can connect magnetic accessories to the back, like we have for years. We have magnets in the front to make the iPad go to sleep or wake up, but we're missing the ability to charge wirelessly, and I think that that's a huge oversight and limiting a lot of accessories that could come to iPad. Another silent disappointment here is that the iPad no longer supports connection to the Apple Pencil 2. Apparently moving the camera to the side where the Apple Pencil charges meant changing the connector, so now it only works with the newer Apple Pencil and can't connect to the Pencil 2. We also haven't seen the introduction of Wi-Fi 7, so it will soon be outdated as everything else starts to update this year. The battery life on new devices is always a big selling point, but in this case, Apple didn't make it better. Despite the all-new features and the slightly larger display, Apple is quoting the same battery life, essentially saying this is enough without interest in expanding it. Another thing that I think could be meaningful, especially for Pro users that didn't come this year, is more USB-C ports. It's kind of bizarre to think there's still only one. It seems like they're pushing people to replace their Mac with iPad, and being able to connect multiple items to the iPad at once would be a great addition, inching us closer to that solution. So it's launch day, but a lot of news outlets have already reviewed the iPad Pro and taken the stance that it's super powerful, but burdened by iPadOS. And was power ever really the problem on the last iPad? And I think the reason for that stance is that they're reviewing it just way too early. In Apple's keynote, they mentioned a lot of features that are coming soon, or some hints at future things. For the first time in a keynote, Apple mentioned AI a lot. It was also mentioned for the first time on the website. If they're mentioning it now and they're unveiling the M4 chip early to get that out of the way, that makes me think that they have some massive updates to explain at WWDC this year, so we can expect a lot of improvements that will come, and they will come to this iPad with M4. Another point is that developers just haven't had a chance to update their apps for the new power. Apple showed off a few key apps like Final Cut and Logic Pro and even Procreate, all of which will be enabled to support this performance right away. But other apps are going to support the power of this thing, and early reviews will just completely miss it. Long story short, I think this is a great iPad to buy, knowing that it's going to support the latest features that are coming later this year. The weight alone is enough for me to make the switch. to this much more enjoyable iPad experience, along with quality of life updates to its lineup of accessories. Stay tuned for a long-term review once more apps take advantage of M4, and let me know in the comments if there's anything else that you want to see. I imagine the updates we'll get at WWDC will make it much more capable than it is right now, but time will tell.